All right, everybody, we're back. No nets, no edits. Uh, this is a guerrilla filming. I'm actually can hear a buzz. I think my phone's ringing, but I'm not going to worry about it. Yes, it says spam risk. So I don't want to get you guys involved in any spam.
Scams.
So my lovely wife is sitting across from me, and I about uh, prepared a couple of pages of questions. So you ready to do it?
I'm ready. Sportster Kid writes, "Why no angels in Montana?"
Well, there's really no agreed reason why there are no Hells Angels in Montana, but I know when George Weggers and I were doing all the negotiating, there was a period of time when George actually lined out a United States map, and that was one of the states that would be exclusively held by the bandits, but the banditos. But it never became official. I tried to get Sonny on board with it. Tried to get Sonny to go have a meeting with George along with myself, and Sonny said he didn't want to go. And I think I mentioned this before, but his reason was, Sonny, why don't you want to go meet with these guys? I just don't fucking like them, was his reasoning. So uh, uh, that was Sonny Barger. So I don't know why. It just, you know, serendipitous, I guess. I don't know. Next question.
1990. Episode on an ex Hells Angel joining other clubs. Do you plan one of these, George?
Well, I might get into that. In the old days, if although we were at war with different clubs, pagans, outlaws, later the banditos, whatever, uh, people didn't jump ship and go join another club. We didn't allow it, and we communicated. And I know there's a couple of instances when that
George,
happened.
you know what? That reflected the times. If you remember in the 60s, people didn't quit their company and go join another company. People stayed and worked and were loyal to a company till they got the gold watch. I think that was kind of the mindset,
And
don't
where in
you
the hell's
think?
my gold watch?
I'm just,
I'm thinking about a.
you didn't jump ship, I know it,
I
but
know.
you're like a dinosaur. You're one of that.
Yeah, look, that really started in Europe when the Hell's Angels and the Banditos went to war.
Oh, the
They were going back and forth, and
oh,
it
okay.
still happens, to this day. I don't think it's a good practice, but it is what it is. That's maybe I'll do an episode on it. We had a outlaw living in town here in Ventura, and the guy was so elusive. We kept looking for him, and even Taco talked to me about him. But when Taco and I started negotiating, and he was so elusive, then we finally caught up with him. Little John was his name, and we wound up liking the guy so much. He was on the run from the cops, and he had no interest to do anything here for the outlaws or with the outlaws. We just let him stay. He would come down and hang out at the clubhouse
That's
sometimes.
cool.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm reminiscing.
Okay, this name I'm probably going to screw up. Grun Blandstone 5000, and he writes Vic Betancourt information and Dick White information. Do you know those two guys?
I do. Betancourt had the other Hell's Angel club. He was kind of in charge of the other Hell's Angel club. You had the Hell's Angels with the small Death Head. Then you had a completely independent club. That was the large Death Head. And an interesting story Sonny himself told me was he ran into Vic Betancourt. He was having trouble. I'm going to say his transmission. I could be incorrect. Vic Betancourt took him over to his house, helped him. They both were Hell's Angels, but Sonny had the small death head. Vic had the big death head. And that's where Sonny got the idea for the larger death head
Oh,
and brought it back to the Bay Area. I think he had Gut. I talked to Bo about this from our Outlaw Archives. I think Gut worked on it for Sonny, but Sonny's the one that really pushed the big death head. So Vic Betancourt was kind of in charge of the SoCal Hells Angels. different Hells Angels. Dick White in the late 70s came forward and said, "You guys got the date wrong. You didn't start the club in 1948. It was either 51 or 52." And Parson and Frank from Purdue went and had a meeting with Dick White, and just a couple of people went. There were a lot of people pissed off about it. Sonny ignored it like it never happened, because Sonny was kind of established that 1948 St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, as the start date. But yeah, maybe I'll do a story on both those guys one of these days. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, Dick White was around, claimed that he started the club with the small death head.
Okay, Sean writes, do you have any info on the Heathens and did they patch over?
Uh, the Heathens did not patch over, and I think if you go back into some of the old videos, uh, perhaps where I'm talking about Slave Louis. You remember the story where Slave Louis ran off with that outlaw bike club president's
Oh,
girlfriend,
yeah.
and then he sent her back on the Greyhound.
Yeah.
That was one of the heathens. But I think some of the individuals might have drifted towards Hell's Angel membership, but as a club, no, it didn't happen. I think they had a charter in Venice or Santa Monica, and there may have been one up in Santa Maria. Atascadero somewhere up there. I'm not sure on that though.
Okay, Chris Brady writes, why did the Big Brother album not have the Bumblebee Death Head?
Well, I can only speculate. If you look over my shoulder here, you can see the Cheap Thrills Big Brother album, and in the lower corner, to my left hand, this is my left hand. Uh, you see the black
It's to the
emblem.
right hand corner of
Yeah,
the.
it's the right hand corner of the album, but it says, I think it says approved by Hell's Angels Frisco or something. But sometimes we did different style death heads if we were putting stuff out to the public, so nobody could copy the actual death head. If you happen to have a Hell's Angels Forever poster, you'll notice the death head on the poster is different than the actual. It's all the way over there to the right.
Okay.
Beverly's looking at it, but it's different than the actual death head we wear on our backs, or I wore on my back, because we don't want people to copy it. So that may be the reason why. The album came out, and then I think Oakland was pissed off because Frisco was getting a little bit more attention than them, and they took it off the album, and then somehow it wound up back on there. I remember talking about it in an officers meeting in the early '80s. Anyways, next one.
Okay, I think I like this guy. Big 666 Al. Why are you called Dirty George? Was your furry suit dirty?
See,
This
that's
guy's
that's a
funny.
goddamn rumor you started,
No, I
Beverly.
didn't.
I do not wear a furry suit, and
You
if
are a furry suit.
Dirty George, the question marks gave me that name. And in Crossing the Rubicon, there's a whole episode on kind of that transformation from uh, just being a regular independent writer and then stepping into the outlaw world with the question marks and the slaves. I ran a company with another guy called the Motor Shop, and I talk about that whole thing. And at the end of the chapter, I reveal how I got my name. I was a real dirty guy, but anyways,
Okay,
not a dirty furry suit.
okay. Furio Guinta, 1451 writes, showing class examples.
Well, I there's a lot of different examples. I could probably do a whole episode on that. Uh, I can think of and you and I have talked about this before, Bev. Remember the girl with the tattooed panties?
Yeah,
uh, we probably shouldn't get into that, should
I
we?
don't care,
I
George.
know you don't. She does. See, this woman, she knows where I've been and what I'm capable of. But if you read Exile on Front Street, There was a girl back in the early '70s that had lace panties tattooed on her,
On
and
her ass.
she was kind of showing class. That's one example. I've shown class different ways. Going after my motorcycle when these little crew of guys out in Port Hueneme were going to rip my bike off. I was over there getting painted, and I went over there by myself and retrieved it. You know, back in those days, that would be showing class. You know, Christy went over there by himself. Man, he got his shit back. That would be showing class. Terry the Tramp showing class by all off the wall shit he did. Anyways, move on. Next one.
Okay, Richard Dashwoods. Did you know Rooster from Richmond?
I knew Rooster from Richmond very, very well. I've talked about him in the past. I actually put a picture up this week. I thought it was Cisco's bike, and I misidentified it. Cisco's bike was actually Rooster's bike. Had a couple people jar my memory. Yeah, I knew Rooster well. Rooster came down in a 911 turbo Porsche one time to Ventura,
Ooh.
and this is I forget early '80s, and my wife Cheryl always wanted a Porsche,
And
and
guess who you
eventually
bought it from?
she got a couple of them, but I was admiring the car, and I go, man, my wife had went to Canada. That's where Beverly knows Cheryl's history. And I went to the airport to pick her up. She was coming back, and Rooster threw the keys at me. This 911 Turbo. He goes, "Pick her up in this. Tell her you bought it." And I showed up at the airport in Rooster's 911 Turbo Porsche, and I had to buy her one
And
ultimately.
who did you buy it from?
I bought it from you, Beverly.
Right.
And you remember that
I
transaction?
totally
I
remember
walked
that.
in there with how many sacks of cash? Well,
Well,
let's don't get into that.
yeah, we couldn't take a transaction of cash over $10,000,
Yeah,
so he had to bring in bag
I
after
made
bag
several
of
trips in.
$9,999, and they didn't have money counters. I had to count
Beverly
all
was a
that.
money counter, and
No,
hell,
I
you did an
wasn't.
excellent job. That's why I always had my eye on you. The way
I
you,
sold cool
the way you,
cars.
I know you did. Anyways, we'll talk about Rooster maybe in an episode. Yeah, I knew Rooster well. I really had a lot of fun with that guy. Anyways,
Okay, Ken Deacon writes, the legs video, ZZ Top, that was one of the coolest
yeah.
videos
Uh,
ever. Who were the extras?
well, the rumor was that they were Hell's Angels. They were Hell's Angel associates from San Fernando Valley, is who they were.
One was your son.
And we weren't in the video, except Georgie was in the little red roadster,
Yeah.
and he
For a
was
kid, that's got to
10.
be the coolest
Oh
thing
yeah, he
in the
was
whole
10 or 11 years old.
entire world.
So Georgie used to get to hang out with these guys. He hung out with the Garcia, started hanging out with Garcia, Jerry Garcia at a young age, and then uh, Billy Gibbons and the crew. I think he was 10 or 11 then, and we were there just as guests, and Billy Gibbons and Dusty and the drummer. They were all very gracious. The management guys were really cool. They were out of Dallas, Texas, and I had met them through an associate of mine there. But uh, that's the story on the Hell's Angels and the ZZ Top Legs video. They were extras, but David Ortega and I, and some Ventura members were there. Little Georgie was in the coop. Okay.
That's cool. Benson Lee writes he'd like some information on Alan Pizarro, his
Okay.
death.
Okay. I'll talk about Alan in a second here. Beverly's leaving us. Uh, don't forget to take your mic off because I'll be able to hear you in there if you're going to be talking about me or anything. So Alan Pizarro, everybody knows who Alan Pizarro is, or you should know who he is. Alan Pizarro was the guy that stabbed Meredith Hunter at Altamont, and I, I was actually thinking about doing a show on Alan because there is some information that has come out lately. There was a private investigator who somehow did some sort of investigation on his murder. I don't know all the circumstances, but I'll get into that. and he had a suspicious death later. But that's it for the questions and answers this week. You can comment, like on YouTube. You can also send me messages on my Gmail. I get a lot of stuff on my Gmail. You can get that off my website. Uh, Keep coming with the comments, and please follow, if you will. So I want to talk a little bit about Canada. I'm going to mispronounce some of these names, and I don't want all the haters out there jumping on me that I didn't pronounce the names right. It's more about the history than the names. You know who I mean. But you know, a lot of people give credit to Sonny Barger for Canada becoming this prominent. I have a guest that just walked into the studio. Uh, that I guess they're about to leave now. So, pardon the interruption. Uh, she gave me the finger too. I'm glad the camera's not on her. A lot of people give Sonny Barger the credit for the Hells Angels coming to Canada. I don't really agree with that, and I'll tell you why. That whole thing transpired in the 70s, and Sonny was in prison during the 70s. I attribute that to Skeets, Skip, Sandy Alexander, uh, other members on the East Coast that brought those guys along. And, everybody thinks about Mom, but I want to go back, Mom Boucher. I want to go back a little bit in the history. And, the first real powerhouse up there in Canada was a guy, Yves Lebas Buteau. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. That's was his nickname, the boss, Lebas. He was a Popeye. He was a leader of the Popeyes. And he came to the United States. I don't believe that's why I said I don't believe Sonny went up there. I believe that Sonny and him communicated while uh, the boss was in the United States. He spent time in Oakland, and then he came down and he spent several days with us at the Ventura Clubhouse. And that was the summer of '83. And he returned home, and it wasn't long after he returned home, he was killed by a member of the Outlaws. And after the boss, his murder, came along another guy that became kind of like the guy running things, Langolis, and he was a former Popeye as well. Uh, he was also responsible for the Lennox massacre. Now, we're going to get into that in the future as well, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. That was a in-house type situation. I think 5 Hell's Angels were killed. He ordered the murders. He went on the run, uh, hid for a couple of years, and then was arrested in 1985. That kind of opened the door for Walter Stadnick. He came next, and he was kind of an interesting guy. My wife Cheryl was a Canadian citizen. Now, I'm not going to say where they were from because every time I say the town wrong or whatever, I get all these haters jumping on me. Cheryl and Walter were from the same town. I told Walter, I said, I don't know where she's from. I met Walter and he goes, I heard your wife's Canadian. I said, yeah. And I got Cheryl, brought her over, and her and Walter started talking, and it wound up they were from the same town. So I had a kind of a special relationship with Walter. Uh, then in the mid 80s, Moms became a member of the Hells Angels. I'm not sure. I think I met him in Sturgis. There was a contingency of guys that came down from Ontario that didn't speak English, and I believe he was one of them. I know that I remember Walter always had somebody that we could converse with him. I don't think Walter spoke French at all, or very good if he did. Uh, Within like 10 years, 1994, Moms becomes a very powerful, strong leader in the club. What he does, though, is he leads the club into a war with the Rock Machine. Uh, the Rock Machine forms this alliance to fight the Hells Angels. Uh, Everybody knows about the war up there. It was over drug trade. It was a really brutal war, 160 lives lost. And, you know, initially the public was kind of let these guys kill each other, but everything shifted when a young, I think he was 10 years old, 11 years old, got hit by some shrapnel. And I think I was always told, and I don't know if this is true, I was told it was done in a cavalier manner, that the guys detonated it with a remote control. The target got in the car. The kid was on the bicycle, and they made a decision to blow this guy up anyways. And I guess they were hoping the kid wouldn't get hit, but he did. He suffered for 3 or 4 days in the hospital and then succumbed to his death. And after that, the public really raised hell, and the cops formed a anti-gang task force, and they got a lot of anti-gang legislation. Uh, Moms had a different leadership style than Walter. Walter was more persuasive, nonviolent. Him and I really hit it off. We were kind of on the same page. And I'm going to do a show on Walter in the future, so that's all I'm really going to get into it. Walter and Moms both were very dominant in the club. They never had a public split, if you will, where like Sonny and I kind of verbally let everybody know that we didn't get along, and we were on opposite ends of the spectrum in club philosophy. But what split Moms and Walter was Operation Springtime. That was a big case up there, and Moms uh, really got himself in a jam. And Walter's charges were less serious. I think he got 14 years or something. I don't know how much actual time he did. Mom went down for killing two prison guards and attempting to kill a third guard. And it was really the beginning of the end for him. He got a life sentence. He wasn't even eligible for parole for 25 years. And I got to be honest with you, Moms took the club in the wrong direction. There's no doubt about it. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't the United States intercede and do this or do that? Those guys were going to do what they wanted up there. I mean, they were very independent. They came down, they adhered to the rules, but they did what they wanted. And I remember they were so serious that one of the representatives took some information back incorrectly uh, to the Canadians, and the guy wound up missing. I don't know if that was part of it or if that was just one of several things. So they were very serious guys. Uh, you know, Moms was tied to many organized crime figures. I know a lot of organized crime figures, but I tried to keep it strictly social, not business. Mom jumped in with both feet. He was doing business with the residual crime family, another crew of guys at West End gangs, and then ultimately he, approached the Colombians, and he was pushed out of the club about 2014. Now we have a rule, when you're in the club, you can't get voted out if you're in prison. But they kind of ignored that rule and decided to do what they wanted. Like I just stated a few minutes ago, those guys always did what they wanted. He wasn't pushed out by anyone in particular that I ever heard, or as I made some phone calls about this, he just burned too many bridges. And I've always taken the position the club is not a criminal organization; it's an organization with criminals in it. But when you get guys like Moms and they're running things, uh, they influence a lot of the members, and you have to be careful. And I have to be careful making that statement because it seems there's a lot more criminals in the club as the club grows. The original concept was brotherhood and to ride your bikes, and then I myself have got caught up in stuff because of people get the outlaw and the criminals confused, but sometimes outlaws become criminals because they want to survive and they're going to feed their family by any means necessary. Does that justify it? You can get in a long debate about that. But here's just a little history on moms. Uh, I think that we should probably talk about Walter next, or maybe Buteau, the boss. Uh, I want to say one thing in closing. Somebody wrote me a nasty letter, not to me directed, but directed towards moms, and claimed moms was a child molester. Moms was not a child molester. There's a guy with a similar name. I looked into this, I had my investigator look into it. Sometimes they get them confused, but moms did not and never did have a child molestation allegation. I mean, if you don't like the guy, you don't like the guy. If you think he did things that were wrong, he did things that were wrong. Now, Apache, that guy, I think he was found guilty of. He was another Hell's Angel, turned informant. One thing I got to say about moms, he held his ground, held his mud. He died in prison. He's gone now. But let's not tag him with the child molester jacket because he wasn't. So that's it for this week. I hope you'll stick with me. I don't know if you're getting fed up with the commercials. If you are, you can go to Patreon. This and a Q&A where Beverly and I are on the camera together are on there. $4.99 a month. Uh, please stay with me here. If you don't want to spend the money, please follow and keep the comments up. And don't be too hard on me, man. I'm trying my best. And like I say, the show is a little rough. That's the way I want it. I want it to be like we're sitting around and just cutting it up on a Friday or Saturday night in the back of the clubhouse, man, around the bonfire. Used to have some of the best conversations back there. Anyways, that's it for this week. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next week, I hope. Bye.